Welcome to part 4 of discussing the current landscape of the men's 100-meter dash as we lead into the 2024 Olympic Games going down in Paris, France later on this summer. Today I'm going to be diving in to discuss a couple different guys from various different countries across Africa and their potential to actually get on the podium in the 100-meter dash. And Africa as a whole, over the past couple decades, has had a pretty interesting history when talking about the 100. Guys like Frankie Fredericks, Davidson Azinwa, Olusoji Fasuba, Aziz Akari, right? There have been a plethora of different guys who have actually been able to make these global finals at the Olympics and the World Championships. But when it comes to actually winning medals, it has been a mixed bag for these guys from African nations. We have only seen 3 men throughout all of history actually make it onto the podium at the Olympics or the World Championships in the 100-meter dash. All the way back in 1908, we saw Reggie Walker from South Africa win the gold medal at the Olympics. Fast forward all the way to 1992, and we saw Frankie Fredericks from Namibia win the silver medal in 1992 and 1996. Then, finally, Letsile Tebogo, representing Botswana, he won the silver medal at the 2023 World Championships in Budapest, Hungary, just last year. So I think that actually might be a perfect place to start. Let's dive in with Letsile Tebogo. These past few years, all the conversation has been around Letsile Tebogo, the rising star from Botswana, who is still only 20 years old and has been thrown into the conversation as potentially the next Usain Bolt, even by people like myself. Now, I've done a few videos on Tebogo, which you can check out right here, but let's get an understanding of where he's at as we enter 2024. Now, his personal best is 9.88 seconds, which he ran just last year in 2023 at the World Championships in Budapest. And at those championships, Tebogo won a silver medal in the 100-meter dash. That was the first time an African athlete has ever won a medal in the 100 at the World Championships. Remember, I noted that Reggie Walker won the gold medal at the Olympics in 1908, and Frankie Fredericks won the silver medal in 1992 and 1996 at the Olympic Games. It's actually interesting because Frankie Fredericks of Namibia, he's finished 4th place, 5th place, 6th place at the World Championships, but he's never won a 100-meter medal at Worlds. So again, Letsile Tebogo winning that first medal at the World Championships for any African nation in the 100-meter dash.
It really shows that the continent has a lot of potential. You know, looking at the likes of Ferdinand and Akani, for me, I really wanted them to have this medal before me, but by the grace of God, I got it first so that I can come up knowing that, I have 2 African brothers who got this medal, and they really motivate me going forward.
But on top of his 100-meter medal at Worlds, on top of his 9.88, he also has a couple different times at 9.91 and a plethora of different times under 10 seconds in the 100-meter dash. So he has shown some really strong consistency really over the past 2 years or so when talking about the 100. But on top of that, his 9.91 seconds, which he ran back in 2022, is actually the U20 world record in the 100-meter dash. And yes, I know Osama Singa, his time is there, 9.89 seconds. I mean, you can go ahead and debate me in the comments. I'll leave that to y'all. But again, Letsile Tebogo, 9.88 in the 100, 9.91, silver medal at the World Championships in Budapest last year. So what are some of the positives and negatives as we look towards the Paris Olympics? Well, first off, like I noted, silver medal at the World Championships last year really is a huge positive considering he beat out the entire field except for Noah Lyles. So guys like Christian Coleman, Ferdinand Omanyala, Zarno Hughes, Oblique Seville, he beat out all those guys in the 100-meter final despite only being, a newcomer his first World Championship final. Additionally, he has an extreme amount of youth. He's only 20 years old, turning 21 years old later on this summer. That is younger than pretty much everyone in the field. He's even younger than guys like Oblique Seville and Akeem Blake, who are 23 and 22 respectively. So that youth is very much going to play into his favor. And then probably most importantly is Tebogo's range across the board in the sprints. 100-meter best of 9.88, 200-meter best of 19.50, 400-meter best of 44.2 seconds, 300-meter best of 30.6 seconds. So his range from 100 all the way up to 400 is unmatched. The closest you're going to get to that is Fred Curley, who's run 9.7, 19.7, as well as 43.6. So in general, you could probably say he has a little bit more range than Tebogo. But when you're talking about the guys across the board in the 100-meter dash, Noah Lyles, Christian Coleman, Zarno Hughes, Ferdinand Omanyala, Oblique Seville, these guys do not have nearly as much range as Letsile Tebogo has from 100 all the way up to 400. And even more importantly, his 200-meter best of 19.50 seconds really indicates that there is a lot more that he can go when talking about his 100. His 100 best is only 9.88 seconds, so we know that there's a lot of room for improvement. And already at the top of 2024, we've seen him break the world record in the 300. We've seen him improve his best in the 400, so he definitely has more room to improve in that 100-meter dash.
The 400 mainly was to correct the 200 meters, because the 200 meters it's a fast race, it's a technical race. So the 400 was basically just to correct all that and see how we'll do after the two 200s, going for the first one and then going again.
But what are some of the negatives that we look at when talking about Tebogo? Well, first off, like I said, his 100-meter best, 9.88 seconds, is not really as fast as some of the other guys. Noah Lyles, Zarnell Hughes, they've both run 9.83. Ferdinand Omanyala, 9.77. Christian Coleman, 9.76. Even Oblique Seville, he's run 9.86 seconds. So 9.88 isn't exactly as competitive as, you might need to be when talking about the Olympic Games. But if you're really thinking about it, right, again, he got the silver medal running 9.88, that personal best. He beat everyone else out in the field, but when we're looking towards the Olympics, everyone is definitely going to be stepping things up. So he really might need to improve upon that 9.88. So that might be one hindrance, again, at this very moment. The other kind of downfall is that he doesn't have a great head-to-head when talking about the 100-meter dash against all the other top guys. For example, he's never beat Noah Lyles in either of their entire careers. He also has only beat Ferdinand Omanyala once out of 7 times that they've raced. He's beat Coleman once out of 3 times that they've raced. Curley, he's beat once out of 3 times. Seville, he's only beat 1 time. So the head-to-head record, interestingly enough, isn't as strong as you might think, but Tebogo has proven himself, again, at least at the World Championships last year. So I'm not sure how much that plays into what actually is going to happen when we're talking about global championships. Now, like I said at the top, myself and others, we've kind of, dipped in and compared his 2023 to Usain Bolt's 2007, and we're expecting an explosion in terms of performances going into the summer this year. But check out the previous video that I did on Tebogo, as I want to taper expectations on what might be possible. Now, he is long overdue for some personal bests. We've already seen him start off 2024 on a very strong note between the 300, the 400, and even the 200 as well. But we're going to see if he's able to actually really improve upon that. But considering everything that's come into play, 100-meter best, 200-meter best, 300, 400 best. He got the silver medal at the World Championships last year. He's extremely young. He has a lot of potential. He has a lot of youth, and he has a very level head, extremely humble, and very, very hungry. I think Tebogo is very much a threat, not only for the podium, but potentially for a gold medal and a very, very fast time in the 100-meter dash. So we're all looking out for Tebogo. But with that, let's move over to Ferdinand Omanyala.
When I got into sprints, I wanted to change the notion that Kenyans can't sprint. And we have the talent because we have one of the best rugby sevens team. And rugby sevens is just basically sprint. So I'm happy because now people are transitioning from other sports coming into sprints. And the only thing they needed to remove is the brain ceiling. The mind ceiling is mainly the main thing that was hindering everybody. But now they're seeing it. And I'm happy for the future. I'm excited to see what will happen in the next 5 years.
Ferdinand Omanyala, representing Kenya. He is a very, very interesting figure that definitely deserves a lot of discussion. Now, prior to 2021, I guess that many people weren't familiar with Omanyala until maybe he made the Olympics or maybe he, ran 9.7. But prior to 2021, his personal best in the 100 was only 10.32 seconds. So it makes sense that many of us probably didn't know about him. But once we got to 2021, he drastically improved. I mean, it was really an explosion where he ran about 10 flat multiple times throughout the season, qualified for the Olympic Games, his first global championships, made it to the semifinals and ran 10 flat in those semis. Didn't make it to the final, but that really just led to another huge jump. Just after the Olympics, he went to Austria and ran a huge personal best of 9.86 seconds. He then followed that up in Kenya at the Cape Kano Classic and ran 9.77 seconds. Not only a personal best, but an African record in the 100-meter dash, finishing just second to Trayvon Bromell in that race. That really put him on everyone's radar, and everyone was like, okay, this guy is going to be a problem in the coming years if he's able to run 9.7 in the 100-meter dash. Now, let's talk about some of these positives and negatives. So first off, 9.77 seconds. Like I said, African record in the event. Of course, he's one of the fastest in history with that time, and he also has a plethora of different 9.8s to back up that time, between 9.85s, 9.86, 9.84. He's really backed up that time. He also overall has been consistently sub 10 throughout, the past couple years, again, since about 2021 when he really had a breakout season. Finally, he has a ton of experience. He competed at every single global championships since the Tokyo Olympic Games. 2021 in Tokyo, 2022 at the World Indoor Championships, 2022 at the World Outdoor Championships, 2023 in Budapest, 2024 at the World Indoor Championships. So he has been able to get to these championships, be competitive for the most part, and really make a name for himself. But Those are some of the positives. Of course, there's definitely a ton of negatives. First off, I'm going to discuss kind of him seeming not to, perform well when it counts the most. Like I said, he's gone to every single championships since 2021 at the Tokyo Olympic Games, but he hasn't actually, shown up to the ability that most of us think. But I think that it's kind of been overblown relative to what he's done. Even by myself, I'll be completely honest. First off, 2021 at the Tokyo Olympics, that was his first ever global championships. He never made a Worlds or Olympics prior to Tokyo. So for him to make the semifinals is actually a pretty good result. Then in 2022 at the World Championships in Eugene, of course, he's coming off running that 9.7 at the end of 2021. Everyone was expecting a lot more from him. But remember, he had travel and visa issues. So he literally arrived, maybe the morning of the heats at the 100-meter dash. So I'm going to give him a little bit of pass on that.
I'm feeling great, but my body is feeling tired. Yeah, the glute's on fire. But let's say it's I got here 3 hours before my race. So I can say that affected, but I hope that I rest for tomorrow.
Then in Budapest, which was his first global championships where, it seems like things were going, to the T and with no issues, he was able to make the final. Now, he wasn't actually able to get a medal, but to be able to make the final, that was a good performance overall for Omanyala.
Yeah, of course, that's not what I wanted, but like I said, everything happens for a reason. We can't go back in time and change anything. So we just have to see what happened today and go back the drawing board.
So I think overall, he's had a mixed results when it comes to global championships at the Olympics or the World Championships. Again, I want to be honest, I've definitely downplayed and said that, he doesn't perform when it counts. But when we actually dive a little bit deeper into it, it's not as crazy as we think. He's been making some steady progress overall. Now, the bigger issue is that Omanyala really doesn't run as fast outside of Africa very consistently. For example, his top 4 times of his entire career are all run in Nairobi, Kenya. So I say Africa, but more specifically in Kenya. Top 4 times all run in Nairobi, Kenya. And then 7 of his top 10 times are all run again in Nairobi, Kenya. And a little caveat that, a couple of those times were hand times. So take that as you will. But, he has run fast at a couple other places, whether it's at the Prefontaine Diamond League, the, Diamond League final last year. So he does have a couple times here and there, but for the most part, most of his fast times are going down in Nairobi, Kenya. On top of that, he doesn't have the greatest head-to-head record when it comes to some of the other top guys. For example, he's never beat Noah Lyles, Christian Coleman, or Zarnell Hughes. He has beat Oblique Seville once in his career. He's beat Curley once out of the 5 times that they've raced. And he does have a pretty good record actually against Tebogo, where he's beat Letsile Tebogo 6 out of the 7 times they've raced. But when we're talking about the 100-meter field as a whole, he doesn't have the greatest head-to-head record. And of course, that's going to go to the fact that at these global championships, he hasn't performed up to snuff in terms of, what we think his potential is. But despite all that, I still think that Omanyala has a lot of potential to get onto the podium this year. Again, huge personal best of 9.77, one of the fastest times in history, and a plethora of different 9.8s to kind of back up that performance. He finished 3rd place at the Diamond League final last year in Prefontaine. He finished 4th place at the World Indoor Championships just this past indoor season in the 60-meter dash, behind guys like Akeem Blake, Noah Lyles, and Christian Coleman. So a very strong field that he, was going up against.
It was a good race, good experience. First position, number 4 is not always a good position because it's just outside the medal bracket. But I have to work out, walking tall, heads up. We are going into the outdoor season now. We'll plan better.
And also, he is always in the conversation, always in the mix, whether it's at the Diamond Leagues, whether it's at Continental Tour, or whether it's at these global championships, despite not getting onto the podium yet. So when we get to the Paris Olympic Games, if I saw Omanyala grab a gold, silver, or bronze, I would not be surprised. And honestly, you probably shouldn't either. Now, with that, let's move over to Akani Simbine from South Africa. Now, South Africa's Akani Simbine is literally the definition of always in the mix, but always on the outside looking in. This is his record since the Olympics in 2016. Rio, 5th place. London, 5th place. Doha, 4th place. Tokyo, 4th place. Eugene, 5th place. Always on the cusp, but never on the podium. But let's look at some of the positives and negatives, as he definitely is still in the conversation as potentially getting onto the podium at the Olympic Games this summer in Paris. First off, some of those positives. Now, he has a personal best of 9.84 seconds, which he ran back in 2021, and is one of the stronger times when talking about African athletes in the event. On top of that, he's run 9.89 seconds and a ton of sub 10 performances in the 100-meter dash. Now, I was noting that, of course, he hasn't been able to make it onto the podium at all these global championships, but that experience is kind of unmatched. He's been competing at the World Championships since 2013 in Moscow. So that experience is really second to none when talking about any other athlete in the 100-meter dash.
It seems like I've been here for a decade, and I'm still so young. But for me, it's always that thing of, I have to prove the world wrong. For some reason, like, my career has always been proving the world wrong, and every time I make a final, I'm the only African in the final, and it's like the world doesn't recognize Africa as a sprinting continent, and we are really that talented and that good, and for me to represent them in the final is really amazing, it's really great, and just people just don't view us as, that great, but just to be able to do that and prove everybody wrong, great.
Additionally, he also is the African Games champion. He's a Commonwealth Games champion, so he has the experience. He's always in the mix, and he's very much always going to be in the conversation. And that's going to, pull him through, potentially, be a lot better, maybe take a spot from somebody who's trying to make the final when we get to Paris later on this summer. But there's definitely a ton of negatives. First off the bat, like I said, he has never been able to get onto the podium. Despite always being in the finals, he's always come up just short, getting 4th place or 5th place at both the Olympic Games and the World Championships since 2016. That's 5 finals that he has yet to get on the podium at. And last year in Budapest, he false started out of the semifinals, even though he felt good and maybe was in the conversation for getting a medal, but again, never on the podium yet.
Trust me, I'm in the shape of my life right now, but we'll never get to see it right now, so it is what it is.
Additionally, he is a very strong PB at 9.84 seconds, but he's really going to probably have to step that up again. A lot of these guys are in the 9.7 range between Curly, Ferdinand Omanyala, Christian Coleman, right? These guys are in the 9.7 range, so he might have to improve just slightly if he really wants to be competitive, when talking about the rest of the guys. I'm not saying that it's going to take 9.7 to 100% get on the podium, but who knows? Remember back in 2012, it literally took 9.7 to get on the podium. We could see something like that again. Also, on top of that, I've been noting it with all the other guys, his head-to-head record is not that great compared to some of the other sprinters. For example, he has multiple losses to guys like Omanyala, Lyles, Coleman, Seville, Curly, and he actually has a pretty poor, win-loss record against most of the guys, despite, again, him always being in the final. Maybe it's him always getting 4th and 5th place that, is, setting him back in terms of that win-loss record, but also at the Diamond Leagues, he's been consistent, but not nearly as consistent in terms of beating a lot of these guys. But overall, I think Akani Simbine truly deserves some flowers for not only carrying the flag, of course, of South Africa, but really the content of Africa for a whole. Again, since 2013, he has been making it to World Championships. Since 2016, he's been making it to the finals at the Worlds and Olympic Games. So he has really been putting Africa on his back, fighting for a spot on the podium. And if he gets onto the podium at the Paris Olympics this summer, I would not be surprised, and you should not either.
I've always said that when I step on the track, it's not just for me, but it's for South Africa and Africa in a whole. So really grateful to represent my country and represent them and get to finals and challenge for medals and not just filling a lane.
So with that, let's dive in to finish off with a couple other athletes from various countries all across Africa and their potential to get onto the podium. So let's finish off with a couple different guys from various different African nations who very much could be making noise when we get to Paris later on this summer. First off, from Nigeria, you have a couple different guys. Udodi Onwuzurike, personal best of 9.92 seconds. Gatse Brume, he has run 9.91 seconds. And then Favorashe, he has run 9.96 seconds. Nigeria has been one of the most dominant players when talking about Africa in the 100-meter dash. They've never gotten onto the podium, but we could see them really make some noise this summer. Now, moving on to Ghana, we have 2 guys who have been up and down over the past couple years, but again, still in that conversation. Joseph Amoah, he has run 9.94 seconds, and Benjamin Azamadi, he has hit 9.91 seconds. Ghana, we spoke earlier about Aziz Zakari. He's been able to make finals back in the past. We could see Azamadi or Amoah actually get it into the final. Who knows what happens at that point? Also, we have to talk about Emmanuel Matadi as well as Joseph Fambule, both of them competing for Liberia. Both of them have personal bests of 9.97 and 9.98 respectively. Not sure if Joseph Fambule is going to run the 100. He may stick to the 200, but who knows? Again, that potential is there, and we could see them make a drastic step up to get into that conversation. Finally, a couple other guys. Arthur Cisse from Cote d'Ivoire, he has always been in the conversation. Personal best only of 9.93 seconds, but again, always in the conversation, always kind of like lurking. He's never made made a world championship or Olympic final, but he has gone to a couple different Olympics and worlds and made it to the semifinals, so who knows? Also in the conversation there. Emmanuel Esime, kind of a new face in a sense. He comes from Cameroon. He really made waves, I think, last year at one of the Poland Diamond League, where he finished 3rd place against a field of very, very high quality guys. He has a best of 9.96 seconds, so definitely not as fast as some of the other, guys when we're talking about the top 100-meter players, but he also did finish 6th place at the World Indoor Championships this year in the 60-meter dash. So who knows? Again, new face on the scene, but very much a top player. Also, Sean Masongwani, coming from South Africa, he has a best of 9.91 seconds, competes for the University of Houston. Again, his name has always been bubbling. His name has always been in the mix. He may only focus on the 200, when we get to the Olympics, not exactly sure, but he is very much in the conversation. Now, am I saying that Africa is going to sweep the medals at the Olympic Games? Absolutely not. Am I saying that all of them are going to get a medal? Absolutely not. Am I saying that all of them are going to make the final? Absolutely not. But what I am saying is that all of them are fighting to put their individual countries, from Nigeria, Botswana, South Africa, Cameroon, they're fighting to put their countries on the map and keep Africa in the conversation as a whole.
There's a lot of young African sprinters, African athletes that are coming through, from the South African group. I can name you 5-6 guys that are coming through, also Botswana, the young boy from Botswana, and we've got Omanyala, the Kenyan. There's so many of us that are coming through, and it's a young group of athletes, that we can, take the world on.
From Tebogo, Omanyala, Simbine, all the way to Onzurike, Esime, Azamadi, right? All these guys have been fighting to put Africa back in the conversation and on the map, and 2024 could be that year that we once again see Africa on the podium at the Olympic Games in the 100-meter dash. Now, as we look forward, next time we're going to be finishing off with part 5, diving into some of the other top athletes in the 100-meter dash and their potential to get onto the podium. Guys like Andre DeGrasse, Trayvon Bromell, Zarnell Hughes, all of them are very much fighting to get onto the podium at the Olympic Games, and we're really going to dive into what their potential is. Thanks for watching, y'all.